Oh, well, hello there, you beautiful, magical, wonderful, interesting human being. I am Andrea Dawn, and today we are here discussing more yoga philosophy. So, in the past couple videos, we started our discussion on the gunas. And the gunas are all aspects of nature, and they are divided into three. And everything in nature, or prakriti, our physical reality, is composed of these three aspects, or gunas. So we have a video discussing that in general, just an overview, and then there's another video discussing tamas, and today this video is discussing rajas. So the qualities of rajas are the more active, passionate qualities. And while this can be a really great and helpful thing, sometimes we need action, right, to get things accomplished and to get things moving. Oftentimes what that ends up leading to is an attachment to outcome. And so it's important that we recognize both the light and dark qualities of each one of these gunas. So I'm going to read to you what I've written about rajas. The gunas are the ingredients in the meal of prakriti. The gunas are the components of all matter, which means that everyone, everything, and every place is a mixture of all three of these gunas, of which are tamas, rajas, and sattva. Tamas is dark and inert, rajas is active and passionate, and sattva is tranquil and clear. You can consider the time of day, the season, the weather, the earth, the sun, the moon, your age, your thoughts, your feelings, types of food, and this list is literally everything. Usually one guna is dominant, which is neither good nor bad, it just is. For example, the earth is tamasic in nature, the sun rajasic, and the moon sattvic. What can be helpful is to observe the gunas in all things so that we can be aware of them in our own selves and better manage them. At the end of the day, all the gunas are bondage. Yet, if we can sprinkle in more sattva in our recipe, we have more opportunity to experience ourselves as the light of divinity. Today we will investigate rajas. The light side of rajas qualities are described as being active, passionate, energetic, driven, determined, and dynamic. The dark side of rajas can be described as selfish, greedy, egoic, restless, compulsive, never satisfied, and attached to outcome. It seems to me that American society missed the boat on understanding this nature completely. We could consider childhood a rajasic period in our timeline. So rather than balance this with just a bit of tamasic or sattvic activities, we slam an 8-hour school day on our children, comprised mainly of sitting, swallowing, and regurgitating. Oh, and don't forget to sit down and do your homework. Children are molded and manipulated into adults who are taught that bigger is better, more is what will eventually get you to happy, and right now is not as important as 10 years from now. This sounds like a recipe for a society of rajas stew. And if everyone is all hopped up on rajas stew, we get an explosive excretion of narcissistic road ragers, all on a trip to power and money. So in comes the pharmaceutical police to serve up some tamas dessert by way of pills and prescriptions. Rather than continue to add to our recipe, yoga prescribes we can begin to take away. Perhaps the type of rajas that would result in understanding less is more would be the action of cleaning and decluttering. Or the rajas to combat bigger is not better would be the effort involved in driving further to visit the local farmer than contribute to the domination of Walmart. Yoga guides us to observe the state of our being after the action. If the action leads to an addiction to action, we need to take note. For when we identify ourselves with only our action, we become lost to the dark side of rajas. Let us fuel our own rajasic fire with right and intentional action to burn away all impurities and reveal our real divine selves. Right? And so we're not saying that action is bad or good. But what I really like that yoga really advises us to do is to pause. So when we do have an action, after after that action, we pause to note what sensations are happening in the body. Because as I said in the writing, addiction to action is just more addiction, right? And then we become identified with whatever the outcome is or isn't. So then we are not enough if the outcome isn't what we perceived we wanted. Or we are enough if enough people come to our class, or if there's this perceived idea of what is successful. And then that becomes what we are identified with, and whether we feel good enough or not good enough. And then that controls our entire lives. And so the idea is just to notice when you are in action. After that action, pause and see what is the feeling. And again, it's not that we can always feel good. That's not the recipe either. It's just noticing what kind of state you're in, what kind of state your being is in after the action. And if we notice that, we can begin to manage our own gunas in a way that's helpful and gives us more opportunity to be in that sattvic state, that clear, calm state, where we then get to experience more of the light of who we are. I hope this was helpful in understanding Rajas, and it gives you inspiration for right, helpful action, inspired action. Please like and subscribe so that these videos pop up for you, and next week we will be back discussing sattva. Always such a blessing, honor, and privilege. My heart sees and feels and smiles to yours. Namaste, yogis.